clear Joe Biden has won the election, there's a sense of relief that the Trump era is over, with thousands of people celebrating in the streets across the country. But there's also apprehension about how much will really change. So I spoke to political activists from various struggles about what they're thinking.
I'm an immigrant rights activist. The way I feel about Trump losing, it feels good, really, to see his demise and see him fall, especially, after all the hate and, chaos that he's created, and not only in this country, but in other countries as well. So it feels good to see him, go on his way out. It's unfortunate that we have Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as the Democratic ticket for the United States. Joe Biden, was a vice president and oversaw the deportation of over 2 million people. Didn't do anything about it, didn't speak up about it. It wasn't until he ran for president he started saying that he regrets it. But it's one thing saying it, it's one thing actually working to heal those wounds from those families. And so we don't expect him to do much.
I'm a steward with legal workers there at the UAW, and so I think that the Biden win over Trump and Trump leaving office is a small win for the people, because Trump was really emboldening a lot of the neo-Nazis and a lot of the white supremacists. We saw some of the craziest attacks on the movement happen during his time, attacks with vehicles, the Kenosha situation, terrible things. And so I think that's a big a win, but I think that we still need to continue fighting, because, people forget that under the Obama presidency, we saw the Ferguson effect, which is basically using National Guard to come in to Ferguson, to be deployed there, and to really suppress the movement there, the movement for Black lives. And I think people forget about that.
I'm a social worker and I'm also a union steward. So I am happy that Trump is leaving. I think there's still some fear, because nothing, as far as being a social worker, nothing has really changed. Families are still homeless. They're still dealing with issues such as domestic violence, not having adequate child care, having to work. And I don't believe that's going to change under the Biden administration. We still don't have proper services for the community. So there's still that fear as a worker for me, and for the families that I work with.
So I'm an organizer for U.S. military veterans and active duty soldiers. And, there's a big, everyone's excited that Trump is gone. He was terrible for veterans issues. Someone who came in as this supposed anti-war candidate who only increased troop levels in places like Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria. Also for veterans health care, he was awful. He appointed just his millionaire friends to run the VA healthcare system and just try to privatize it to make it corporate. We're very apprehensive, our community very apprehensive about Joe Biden. In particular, Biden has promised to continue the war in Afghanistan with many thousands of troops. And Joe Biden's talking about putting Pete Buttigieg as the head of the Secretary of the Veterans Affairs. Pete Buttigieg has no experience at all, except that he was in the military for 8 years. He's a failed mayor of a small town. And the only reason that Biden would be putting him in such a prominent position to manage an extremely complex thing, the VA system, is as a reward for, in the primary, helping Joe Biden destroy Bernie Sanders in the primary and keep Bernie Sanders from being the nominee.
So I am an organizer with an organization called Pivot to Peace. We are a pro-peace collaboration organization. We mainly focus on diplomatic U.S.-Chinese relations, as we know, has really soured under the Trump administration. So with Trump leaving, I'm very, very happy. Pompeo was an awful, awful Secretary of State. He went around the world trying to rally people on an anti-China campaign, purely on anti-communism. So I think with Trump out of office, it creates an opening. There's a part of me that is concerned, because Biden did run on a who's tougher on China campaign. It was very much competing with Trump on the fact that Trump is too cozy with China.
I'm an anti-war activist, and I'm definitely excited that Trump's out of office, but I know that there's a huge uphill battle to be won. I've seen some New York Times articles in the last couple of days saying that Biden would keep Trump's harshest measures on China intact. And I know that he's criticized Trump from the right on a number of foreign policy issues. So I know that, the imperialism will continue no matter who's in office. I've talked to people in Latin America, and I know that a Democratic administration doesn't change much. Sanctions will still be in place. I looked through Biden's platform and saw that, he wants to tighten sanctions on Venezuela and continue Trump's regime change operation.
Yeah, I'm a socialist organizer, housing rights, economic justice organizer, and I'm, of course, feeling good about the fact that Trump, an open fascist and racist, was dealt a blow like this. But of course, he's not gone. And there's a lot more fight that's going to need to happen under Biden or whoever ends up taking power. So I have a moment of relief and I guess respite, but I'm still feeling very much, concerned and very much like feeling the need to continue to struggle as hard as we can. We've been doing a lot of work around like housing and cancellation of rents and, meeting the economic needs of people throughout this horrible crash, an economic crash that was inevitable that happened. And a real concern for me is, that which Biden doesn't seem to have any answer for. His COVID plan doesn't have any kind of economic stimulus, which can't be separated, like the class element can't be separated from the scientific element of needing to battle the virus. And it's especially concerning because the kind of failure, what seems like is going to be a failure of the Biden administration to address these economic concerns, is it lays the groundwork for Trump or someone like Trump to seize power right back again, because you're going to have millions of disaffected workers who are looking for some kind of answer and some kind of change, and they're going to see a demagogue like Trump and think that maybe this can be a solution for me.